Hello everybody and welcome to Techno, and today we're going to be covering export settings on Premiere Pro, but we're going to be covering some of the more basic ones and some of the ones you might need to use on a more day-to-day basis rather than ones that you're generally not going to need to be using. So, let's go. First of all, you just need to go to File with Note a Timeline or Sequence selected and go to Export and go to Media. Remember to have this properly selected, and then you can go to File, Export and Media, or you can just use Control and M. And so let's go across the page, starting from the left and going to the right. So to start with, you have your source, which is really your sequence, which I've got here, which is a minute long. You can decide what you want to be rendering, so you can crop it. Then you can say, I want this much, if you wanted to. If you wanted to have particular part of your video rendered, that's the cropping function. And then with the output, you can have the scaling of the source, so you can say if you had a 720p video sequence and you wanted to put it into a 1080p video at the end of the export, then you can say that you want it to scale to fill, scale to fit, etc. Scale to fill is when it fills all of the page, whereas scale to fit is where if you had a bit of square footage, it would be the biggest square that it could, but it doesn't affect the aspect ratios. And scale to fill is when it just might have some on the outside, whereas stretch to fill is when it really messes with the aspect ratio, but it depends really on what you're wanting to do. Stretch to fill might be appropriate for, say, a 720p piece of footage because it can just scale up into a 1080p export. And so down at the bottom here we have our timeline. We can see what it's going to export. I mean, obviously it won't be as quick if you're entering, say, 4K video with 20 effects and color correction coming in from everywhere, but this is a pretty simple little timeline, so it's going to be fine. If you want to maybe set an in point or an out point, so you want to use part of your project, then you say if I wanted to start it at 5 seconds, then you can just go into this time code, set it to 5 seconds, and then you can just set in point, and then there you go, that's what you can do. But let's set the in point to the beginning for now, and you can select the zoom level of footage, so this is really how zoomed in it is. Simple. Then you can go to source range down here, and this is really how much of the source you want to include. So you can have the entire sequence, which is what I've got here, sequence in and out. So if you set in and out points for your sequence, then obviously this is what it's going to do. Or the work area, or custom, which would involve the in and out, so that's different. Set the aspect ratios just down here. Aspect ratio correction might be useful. I'd leave that on, to be honest with you. And so now let's go over to the export settings panel over here. You can click match sequence settings, and this will just be exactly what your sequence looks like, so you won't have any different settings over it, but obviously you're probably wanting to change them. So first of all, you've got your formats here. You can have it as a GIF, as an AVI, as another GIF. There's one that's an animated GIF, one that's just a GIF. MPEG-4s, MOVs, WMVs, so you can change it as lots of different things. And then you can have a preset. Now obviously this is a custom preset for different things, but you can obviously just go down. Oh, sorry, you can obviously just go down, and if you wanted to say have a YouTube video, then YouTube 1080p would really be where you want to be at. But if I wanted it to be for an Android phone and tablet, that's what I would do. But let's just say at the moment that I wanted it, let's just say at the moment that I wanted it to be a YouTube video and set it at 1080p, but obviously I'm going to be changing those a lot. And then here you can save your custom presets, and it'll take you to a directory. Then you can port a preset, etc. Comments, this is just comments as in a metadata format, so you can just write comments on it, unfinished, finished, whatever you want to do. Then in your output name, you can obviously save it somewhere, as I've already done once here, but you can save it to wherever you want it to go. Export video and export audio are quite self-explanatory. If you just want the audio of the video, of which here there is none, then you can just click export audio if you want a video with no audio. It's pretty self-explanatory. Here you've got the summary of what you've said in the export settings, really, and down below, over here, you've just got the output, and you've got the sequence there. And so you can see the differences. And so over here, let's go through some of the more basic features. The effects, the lumetri look, you can have a lumetri preset, and you can then go along to, say, SL Cross HDR, and then that makes it look a lot better. I would actually export it with this, but obviously it renders this, and it might be a little bit slower at rendering because it's got to render in the lumetri look. And I might even leave that on there because it looks very good. Then SDR conform, really, that's a posh name for the brightness, which you can turn up, but that was left at 10. Contrast, which you can turn up as much as you want. Leave that at 0. Softening, well, it's an interesting setting. The image overlay is whether you want an image to be laid over it. You can apply one, click choose, that'll take you to your directories on your computer, and you can find one, and then you can do the position, you can do the offsets, you can show where you want it to be, the size, and the opacity. Opacity meaning translucency or transparency. But I don't want that one now. The name overlay is just the name of the file, and you can even type before it something like file name if I wanted to here, and then it should say file name for it. There you go, file name. And if you want to, you could maybe put a colon and space. This could obviously be useful if you want to say maybe something like experiment number 2 or something like that. Then you've also got the format, so you can have the output file name, so whatever you've named it up here. Obviously now it's got the .mp4 because that's what you'll be saving it as. Also you've got the suffix displayed after, position, left, if you wanted to, offset, so I can actually just move it over a bit so that it fits in. Obviously that might take a while. Size, make it bigger, it's struggling, but an opacity is the transparency, but let's remove that. And so next, guys, we can have a timecode overlay. This is just your timecode, really, and it's just where you are at the point in your footage. So this is at 0, 0, 0, 0, so it'll be 0, 0, 0. But if I move it along, it's going to display the timecode. Sometimes very useful for observing things. I don't know, I'm not sure about what project you're doing, but it might be useful. Size and opacity, offset, so that's position, size, transparency. Again, offset in frames, you can have it start at a particular amount of frames over, or a particular amount of frames under, but let's just leave it at 0. And then you've got different things like the time tuner, video limiter, blah blah blah, but they're the more confusing ones I said that we wouldn't be going through, so I think I'll leave those off for now. And video basic settings, here we have the resolution, but if I wanted it to match the source, I could click there, which means that it matches the source. But if I wanted to unclick that, then I could change that to maybe 1 to 80, and that would go to 720 because it's locked. But if I change that to 1920, there, or that, then I just couldn't, and then, well, I could, but it wouldn't keep the aspect ratio, as you can see there. But if I make it keep the aspect ratio and type in 1920 again, it'll hopefully, it's meant to change that to 1080. I don't know why it's not doing that, guys, but it normally certainly will. There you go. But I'm just going to leave that as match source for now. So here we have the frame rate, which is just the frame rate. If you want to do a short film, normally 25, 24, 23.976 are your go-tos, but obviously you can go up to whatever you want to. If you want to be 60, you can have it at 60. Field order, we'll leave that one off for now. Aspect ratio, which is just the aspect ratio of the video. If you want it to be in this particular format, then that's what you can do, and it will keep it within that resolution as well. Anamorphic, well, I don't know why you would want that, but square pixels, probably the most reliable one. TV standard, you can just change everything for what frame rate you want, and then you can see there that the video format US and Japan use NTC, Europe and Asia use PAL. So there you go. Profile, we'll leave that for now, and level, we'll leave that for now. Then down here, bitrate settings we'll leave, advanced settings, and VR video even, which is quite cool. Audio, so you can have the format of the audio if you want it to be in Dolby Digital, you can have it in Dolby Digital. And then you get some settings. And then you get the channels, so if you want it to be surround sound, the sample rate, different sample rates, different things. If you wanted to add it to another video, then you would ideally want to have the same sample rate. Also, you can just make the audio quality high to make it as good as possible. Bitrate, precedence, more confusing stuff. Multiplex we'll leave out. The captions, this just really shows if you've done captions in the video, then these are the places where you can go to work out the captions. And publish, this is very useful. Adobe Creative Cloud, which is basically like OneDrive or Dropbox but done by Adobe, and if you want to keep it in there, then you can keep it in there. Behance is a social media network for sort of professionals. You can obviously post it on there. Facebook you can post it onto, and it's also important to note that there are, I believe, there's a Facebook one there. It's Facebook preset. FTP, which is basically servers, you can send it to a server. Twitter, you can just post it to Twitter, Vimeo, and even YouTube, which can be really, really useful. And this is a really useful setting, this publish area, especially for YouTubers and people who are on their social medias. That's very useful. You can also use maximum render quality, which is to do with the scaling. So if you said that you wanted it to be an anamorphic, it would obviously make it a lot better at the scaling. But if it's taking a very long time for your video to render, that is likely what's going on, and I'd suggest not using that one. Use previews. If you've gone to sequence over here and rendered something, then this is what you would click, and that means that it would use that render because it stored it somewhere on your hard drive, and you can include it in that video. Import into project, you can have this rendered video going into your project over here, or in video file, which is the name of the project, hence I'm using the file in the video. But you can add it to your project over here, which you can then drag onto your timeline, etc. Set start timecode. If I wanted the start timecode to be 1 minute through, then I could. And timer tabulation, blah blah blah. Metadata, you can edit all the metadata. So script, if you wanted to say scene setting, time of day, action, and even some of the dialogue here. You could use that. That would be for Adobe Script, I believe. But there's loads. Basic, rating, blah blah blah. Then also we have Q, which will take it to the Adobe Media Encoder. That is for After Effects and Premiere Pro, and it is basically just their forum for rendering lots of things and controlling rendering, blah blah blah. But maybe that's another video for another day. But here is your magical export button. Sometimes, guys, people get confused. If it says rendering audio previews, then that means that it's rendering the audio and not the actual video, and that's different. And normally, guys, this renders in about maybe 1 minute because it's a 1 minute video of just pictures. But because we put the Lumetri look on, it's going to be taking slightly longer, but it shouldn't be taking too long. 41 seconds remaining. It's not taking too long. It doesn't require a very powerful computer to do this. And actually, Premiere Pro doesn't require a very powerful computer to do a lot. It will just take longer. It's not going to say nope, but it might just take longer. Okay, guys. So, thank you very much for watching. Please like, favourite, comment, share, and subscribe. I hope you found these tips very useful to you. And happy exporting. Bye, guys.